I was speaking about Joe Rogan last week, and I forgot to mention something that was very important to me. This might be potentially life changing, and I've shared it with a bunch of people in my network. And I just want to stress that Jewel was on Joe Rogan recently, and like I don't watch the Joe Rogan Experience unless the guest that is on is a conversation that I'm interested in watching. Like, oh, this person talking with Joe Rogan. Do I want to see that? That's how I decide which episodes I watch and which ones I don't. So, had I just um, seen Jewel in the guest lineup, I never would have watched it. However, it just so happens that a couple weeks ago, while watching Scott Adams, he happened to read a comment which mentioned how Jewel was on the Joe Rogan Experience and talked about the systems that she put in place to guide herself to to success, basically. And this was a while ago. I never got around to actually watching it until last week. And it was so good. I watched it at 2.6x, and then it was so good. I told myself, I have to watch this again and take notes, which I did over the rest of the week. I took like something like 2 or 3 pages worth of notes. That show I recommend it to anyone. Like just to give you an example, Jules' life path. Um, I'll skip the early childhood days, but she leaves her home at age 15. She's suicidal at 15. A couple years later, at 18, she ends up homeless. And from that, a couple years later, at age 21, she's selling millions of albums as a folk singer during the height of grunge. So, whatever led to a path where you're suicidal at 15 and now you're a platinum record musician less than a decade later, there are some things that can be valuable to that. And holy shit, were there some, because the first step was to save herself from killing herself, right? And I took a whole bunch of notes, which I still haven't synthesized yet. But if there's one takeaway that I can give you now, a metaphor that Jewel uses a lot when she talks about anxiety and emotional pain and things like that. It's that you can't deal with these emotions if you're not present. And a metaphor she uses a lot is, when you're anxious, which is like worrying about the future or looking at the past with regret, you're not present, right? And the metaphor she uses is it's like it's like protecting your house from burglars by leaving your house to go find burglars. And the house in this metaphor is the present moment. And a tool that she uses to help snap herself back to the present moment is what are my hands doing right now? That is a key question that I've been asking myself. As a matter of fact, on this desk, which I sit at dozens of hours a week, I've made myself this little sticky note here to remind myself to ask myself this question. And I gotta say, um, I'm I'm reaching a point where I am consciously competent in the skill of at least snapping myself back into the present by asking myself what my hands are doing. That's just the beginning of the process. That won't heal itself. Like, just to give you an idea of the process, it's happened a couple times over the last couple days where I'll feel anxious or regretful or something like that. And just that feeling triggers me to ask myself, what are my hands doing right now? And once I'm present to myself, the immediate follow up question for me anyway is, do I feel stressed or do I feel relaxed? And once I have the answer to that question, I can kind of deal with it as best I can from there. But the point is, you can't protect your house from burglars if you're not in your house. So yeah, I just wanted to really stress how valuable that conversation is. I was not expecting it. And I will link to it below, which is the note that I wrote myself. I've already spent a lot of time talking about it, but it's worth it. And yeah, I fucking love it. Bring it back to the body to not be stuck in your head. Yes, Darshady. Listen, the Jewel episode of Joe Rogan is over 3 hours long, and depending on the juice that you get from it, might not be worth the squeeze, considering that it's 3.5 hours of squeeze. However, for me, it was oh so worth it. Holy shit! And there, I'm looking back to events that happened over the weekend, and I was feeling anxious or regretful. Those were the two main triggers, and just feeling that tenseness, I immediately asked myself what my hands were doing, and was able to check in on myself and process it in real time. So yeah, whew, just for that, totally, totally worth it. All right.